Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another intriguing young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, Gertrude. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Weiler Matullo, and I live in North Carolina in the United States on the East Coast. I live here with my husband, my mother, and my dog, Cora. I'm originally from New York, and I moved to North Carolina about 4 years ago. I grew up in New York in the suburbs called Long Island. And basically, I always was a very upbeat, positive, bubbly person. Even growing up in a home that was definitely emotionally challenging. It was, I call it a dysfunctional home. My father was an alcoholic, and I definitely had a lot of issues coming out of my childhood. I always, though, had this bubbliness. I can't explain it. It was something that just was instilled in me, even during really tough times. And I realized much later in life, as I grew older and started my career, that there was just this spark that in a story that I realized was full of shame from my childhood, there was this spark that always was inside of me, wanting to learn how to love myself. I just wasn't aware at all that that's what I needed to do. So here I was. I grew up in this dysfunctional home that was very unstable, a lot of unpredictability. I kind of never knew what I was coming home to. If my father was going to be drunk, if he would, come in to pick me up from school, if he would be drinking or not. My mom definitely had a very hard time with this, and honestly had a lot of kind of crazy moments where she was just kind of going insane and would, have these violent outbursts because of it. And so there was just a lot of instability, and it didn't feel safe. Not unsafe in an abusive way, but unsafe in that unpredictability, unstable, kind of never know, walking on eggshells sort of feeling. So as I started to grow older and became a teenager, I developed a skin disorder called psoriasis. It's an autoimmune condition where the average person's skin sheds roughly once a month, where my skin sheds every day. And it's very itchy. It's when it gets inflamed, it's just very irritating, and it's very unattractive. So it truly just brought on more shame. So what I didn't realize until I was much older was that I had this inner narrative of shame going on. And shame is this very deep emotion that stems from worthlessness. And so what I didn't realize at the time was that, growing up, I really needed to build this foundation of self-worth over time that I had no idea how to build. I didn't have any tools. I didn't have any exercises. I didn't have anyone in my life at school or at home that was teaching me that I needed to do this for my own happiness and joy. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I was sitting on my bathroom floor, sobbing, having kind of no idea and very confused as to why this was happening. Why was I feeling so bad? Because at that time, I had gone to, I'd graduated from high school, graduated from college. I went to college in New York City. I, from the outside, was living this really great life. If you looked at my life from the outside in, you'd be like, wow, she really has it all. I moved to New York City from Long Island. I had my own apartment. I had great friends. I was making a good living financially, and I was living out a dream career. I was working in the television and film industry behind the scenes. And I had my college degree. Like, I really was sort of on that track to success and happiness that, from an outside standpoint, that's what you would think. But somewhere deep inside of me, even though I always had that spark and knew, like, no, I'm going to make the best of this life. And, there was this deep insecurity, this deep lack of self-worth that I didn't even realize that's what it was. And it was playing out in my life and making all my decisions for me, preventing me from taking risks and doing all these things. So from the outside in, people probably thought I had this wonderful life, but from the inside out, I was really struggling. I was just feeling so less than. I it's a feeling that when you have it, but it almost feels like you're dying inside. That's kind of the best way I could describe it. It's like when you just have this really deep feeling of like, it's the shame. The shame is just, it's a horrible feeling to walk around with. Everything just feels like you're not good enough. What you're doing is not good enough. I can sit here and make all the money in the world. I could work in the most prestigious career. Nothing will matter because it's all about how I'm feeling about myself. And I didn't love myself. I didn't know that self-love even existed. So there I was sitting on my bathroom floor one day, ugly crying like nobody's business. And I just didn't even understand what was wrong with me. I had all these survival traits from growing up in that dysfunctional house: people pleasing, feeling responsible for other people, fearing authority figures, feeling guilty when I would say no to people, standing up for myself. It was setting boundaries. It was all so difficult for me to do these things. I was really struggling. So there I was, hysterical crying. I have this skin condition. There was so much about these survival traits that I had that I just couldn't even wrap my head around. I didn't understand. I was very confused and feeling very down. So I was just crying and crying. And then this voice literally spoke to me. I realize now it was my higher self speaking to me. And it said, you need to learn to love yourself with or without the spots on your skin. And it was one of those moments, like coconut hit me on the head moment, like, I mean, mind blowing, because it was that moment that something in me, that spark that I mentioned earlier, something in me just knew that, oh, wait a second, I can change my own inner narrative. Like, I can change my story. It doesn't have to be a story of shame. I can do that. I have the how do I do this? How does somebody do this? Like, how do I learn how to love myself? And I just kept hearing that voice. You have to learn how to love yourself. You have to learn how to love yourself. What is that? How do you do that? How do people go around doing that? So that was motivation for me to shift my entire perspective. I started to do this deep dive of, just like watching really motivational and inspirational videos on YouTube, reading every self-help book I could get my hands on, everything from healing my skin, how I can heal my skin and feel more confident in my skin, just how do I love myself? How do I do it? I went down this deep dark rabbit hole, and who knew that there was all this information out there on tools and exercises and activities and how to do that? Who knew? So I just went down that rabbit hole and I practiced every day. I made it like a full-time job to learn how to love myself. And the most incredible thing happened along the way. I ended up in 10 months, food became my medicine and self-love became my medicine. And I ended up healing my skin after about 10 months. I was completely psoriasis free. And here I was working in this career where I was working crazy hours and I was like, meeting all sorts of different talented people. And here I had this like very heavy, almost like a secret inside of me. And so it was amazing how just I started to do this, like I started to transform is what really, really happened. I started to change that narrative, change that story. But it really took a lot of practice in making all of these tools that I did for self-love and to learn how to love myself, to build my confidence, to build that self-worth over time. Those things I did, some of them I created myself, some of them I read in books. All of those things I did became my non-negotiables. They literally became my non-negotiables and they changed my life for the better. I started to be able to set more boundaries. I started to take more risks. I started to chase my dreams more. I started to practice. How do I love my skin? Let me learn how to love my skin. So I practiced every day. And all of these tools I did, they started to really change my life for the better. I just was more happy, more confident. I started to say no more. I started sticking up for myself more. It's not easy. It's not easy to we know it is the hardest thing in the world to use your voice and to do what's right and to stand up for yourself and to say no when like there were times when I had 1 hour to myself, like I really wanted to go for a walk and reflect and be alone, but I had a million people to take care of and it's so much to do for work and et cetera, et cetera. So it's all of these moments that over the years helped really put my non-negotiables in place and slowly change that story from shame to love. And I ended up over time. Here I was working in film and television, and that was my career. I in management. I acted actually as well. I did all sorts of stuff behind the scenes. Today I'm a production accountant. That's what I do full time. Also created a nonprofit called the Love Group, and me and a
Okay.
yeah,
Let me take you back a little bit before we delve into all that.
please.
This has been an incredible, incredible story. Now, I know that you say that healing isn't linear. What does that mean in your experience? And why is it so important for others to understand that?
Well, everybody from what I've learned so far, and I'm still on my journey, and I will be until the day I die.
Mhm.
um, but I think what's so important about people to understand about healing not being linear is that first of all, we all have our own journey to go on, and those journeys could be we all have to go on those journeys because we have so many lessons to learn and we have so many things to learn in the healing. And but because all of our journeys are so different, some people have to kind of go. I almost look at it like, all right, let's say your journey is like you start at A and you're where you really want to get to is Z, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. But
Yeah.
throughout life, at least for me, life will take me on like I'll just be going B, C, D, and then all of a sudden come E, it like veers me off path because I can't get to Z unless I experience what's going on at E because E has to teach me something that I need to learn in order to get to Z. So this is like veering off the path all through life. And I feel like that's probably the same journey for most people. It's like we're always veering off to learn these lessons so that by the time we get to Z, we understand and we have the knowledge now, and knowledge is power. And we
Mm.
have just a whole new set of like learning skills that we didn't have before. You know what I mean?
That's so true. So, what was the scariest part of sharing your story publicly? And how did you find the courage to do it?
So that's such a great question. Um, in my house growing up, everything was really like not talked about. I'm sure a lot of people probably relate to that too. When there is shame in a house too, and there's so many, secrets and things that people are scared to talk about. Meanwhile, the healing is in the talking. But in my family, like nobody talked about anything. So there was a time when I was 16 that I was crying in high school. I was just standing at my locker crying. Now, at the time, I was crying about a boy. I liked this boy. We were dating. He broke up with me, and I was crying about it. But a social worker passed my locker, saw me crying, and said, "Come with me." And I ended up having a very long session with her, crying, talking. And what I realized was the sadness and the tears weren't really about this boy. It was about what was going on at home. So to answer your question, that social worker changed my life because she taught me, which I didn't realize at the time, that talking was medicine.
Yeah.
And so she helped me get in to see a therapist at the time, which was very foreign to me. Talk about things going on in my house. Like, I can't do that. No, am I allowed to do that? Like, I was 16 at the time, but I did. I saw this therapist. This therapist charged me like $10 a session because I had no money. I was 16. And she really got me talking about it. And then all of a sudden I found myself going home going, "Hey, mom, there's this thing, this isn't right. This feels bad. This
Mm.
is how it's affecting me." And I would start to slowly say things. And at first I got a lot of resistance, a lot of resistance. No one wanted to talk about it. But then
Mm.
over time, my dad was like, "Maybe I should go to a therapist." And I was like, "Yeah,
Wow.
you should."
Right.
And then slowly things were shifting, at home, which made it more safe for me to talk about it out loud.
Mm.
But then I had this whole lull from, like, let's say my 20s and my 30s, where I didn't talk about it. It was something I actually hid. As soon as I got that skin condition, psoriasis, and I started to feel really bad about myself, I went into this like cocoon where I didn't tell, young men I dated that anything. I was nervous that people would judge me. And at the end of the day, it came down to love. I wanted people to love me. And if they knew what was going on inside of me or at home, they wouldn't love me. That was my story. That was the story at the time. So it really wasn't until I was in my mid 30s. I'm working in TV and film. I have, a successful situation going on. But that meltdown, that breakdown of mine in the bathroom that day, I was like 36 at the time,
Right.
wondering, my life seems great. What is this? What is happening to me? Why am I having a breakdown? And it was the breakthrough that came through that breakdown that got me wanting to talk about it to help other people heal. And
Mm.
that's when I was like, people need to know how to use these tools. People need tools of their own. People need this. They need to heal. I know I was talking from a personal standpoint, like this helped heal my skin. It helped heal my shame, like this. And I just wanted to spread the word. I was so compelled to spread the word. And I really think
Amazing.
that spark that I talked about earlier, that
Yeah.
was always a piece of me that I think wanted to be shared with the world, like spreading love or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
just
then-
beautiful. Now, you wrote a book. What is the title of the book? And tell us what the book is really about. What can people expect?
Yeah, so I actually happen to have them right here. I wrote
Okay.
two books. This was my first book, and it's called P.S. It's All About Love: How a Painful Journey with Psoriasis Became a Life Devoted to Healing Others. And that was my first book. And that book is about my journey with psoriasis and growing up in dysfunction. It's the first half, I'd say, is about how food really became my medicine and healed
Right.
my skin and all of
Mhm.
the details in that journey. But then the whole second half of the book is about self-love, because even though I healed my skin through food the first
Mhm.
time I really went on that journey,
Yeah.
and I do find food very healing for sure.
Mm.
But what I kind of realized over time was it wasn't just healthy food and what I consumed that was healing me. It was changing the relationship to be more healthy with my body, with people, with money, with
Mm.
my spirituality. it was kind of a whole package that really helped me heal. It wasn't just food. Food was secondary, but all those things were primary. So it was learning how to reduce my stress, learning how to self-regulate. I talk about these tools to help empower me, um, and create a more empowering narrative. And
Right.
those tools are in my second book. This one is called Empower Trip, a teen's guide to finding your inner star power. And it's interesting because there's over 100 tools in this book, exercises, activities. It's
Okay.
basically, it's like a go-to guide. This one's written for teens and preteens, but it's like a
Mhm.
go-to guide to learning who you are, getting to know yourself, learning how to forgive yourself and others, learning how to look for the good,
Mhm.
learning how to shift your mindset and look more for the positive. And it really helps you do that. And one of the biggest things too is like questioning your stories and questioning your thoughts,
Yes. And the
because
stories that we tell ourselves are so, so, so powerful. We really have to be aware and catch ourselves when we're having that negative self talk. So, what advice would you give to someone who feels ashamed of their body or a chronic condition?
such a powerful question. um, I would say, I'd say my biggest, there's so many things that I want to say,
Mm,
but I'd say the biggest place, the most important place that I started, right? Because you have to start somewhere. And sometimes people just don't even know how to start, or like, okay, what do I do? And there's that question, how? Because people can easily say, like, oh, don't feel that way. Oh, that's
yeah,
not true. And it's supporting and everything. But how? How do I do that? And I think that's the burning question, is how. And that's why I wrote the book, for teens, about like, those are all like how to's. And so my
yes.
biggest piece of advice is you have to start somewhere.
Hmm.
And there's so many things you can do. And, you know, so I encourage everybody to even just Google, how do I love myself? What can I
Hmm.
do? What can I practice? Or buy my book. There's tons of exercises in there. It doesn't matter that it's written for teens.
Yeah.
But start with, okay, speaking more gentle and loving and caring and kind to yourself. Because to me, how you speak to yourself is the absolute number one thing that can
Mm,
change everything in your life for you. It can change your entire perspective about yourself.
yeah.
It literally, when you don't practice speaking kindly to yourself, like it's like you're rewiring your brain to be more loving and caring towards
Mhm.
you, because it's so easy to be that way towards other people, but it's not so easy to be that way towards yourself.
Wow.
And it takes practice. It takes
Yeah.
practice like anything else. And what's interesting is when you do practice and it becomes very habitual, that becomes a non-negotiable for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not only that, but it, it, now your brain says, "Oh, I matter. Oh, I'm worthy."
Mm,
And you're now having more compassion for yourself. You're more gentle with yourself. And over time, what I've learned is that the more I practice being kind to me and saying really nice things to myself about myself consistently, it's the consistency is that the key there to building that self-worth over time. But what happens is all of a sudden time passes, and it might feel awkward at first, but then over time it's all of a sudden, like when you don't do it, it doesn't, your day's not complete. You don't feel like you just feel better when you do it.
so let's talk about these rituals. What are the self-care rituals or practices that have been essential in your healing journey, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
Oh, so I'd say the number, I'd say like I have like a top 5.
Yes.
And I do like to change them up. Sometimes I just crave to do new things and,
Okay. Sure.
incorporate. So I'd say that the number one thing that I do that's a ritual for me every single morning is taking a walk. I walk every day, by myself. It helps me just reflect on my day. It grounds me before my day gets a little crazy. And so I love taking a walk at I'm out in nature. I'm looking up at the trees. I'm looking at the flowers. I'm just being. I'm just being. And I feel like we all need some time like that, whether it's in the morning or just throughout the day. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 10 minutes. It could be an hour, whatever it is for you. But for me, and my walk is like my 100% number one non-negotiable. And the second one is the kind self-talk. I have Post-its of affirmations. I talk to my skin all the time because living with a chronic autoimmune skin condition, psoriasis, it's something that, comes and goes. Depends on stress levels. It depends on what I eat. So it comes and goes. So I'd say like talking kindly and lovingly to my skin has really helped me over time. It helps my skin. I can see the difference. I can actually see the difference. But I say things to it like, thank you so much for releasing the toxins that you're releasing. Thank you for healing. I know you're healing. I know you're taking care of me. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Like just saying things like that. That's something you would easily say to somebody else, no problem. But when it comes to myself to sit there and talk to my skin, it's weird. I get it. It's strange. But over time, there's just this awareness about how it helps me. That's the awareness is so key. And it
Yeah.
just, those two things alone, like just help me create a more positive, empowering reality for myself. There's also that thing that we talked about a few minutes ago about questioning the stories that your mind is making. I
Oh, yeah.
learned that like, when I learned this, my mind was blown. I never knew that my mind created stories and that those stories, positive or negative, shape my reality.
Yeah.
I never knew that. So if we question those stories because they're not always true, majority of the time, I don't think they're true. And so if we question them, like let's say I have psoriasis on my skin, I could easily make that mean that I'm unlovable or that I should be embarrassed. People are going to look at it and think I'm disgusting. Like my mind could go all day long with the stories.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you question those stories, when you question those thoughts, this door opens to possibilities where you're not
Yes.
limiting your growth.
You expand it. So let's end with two questions that are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first question, I'm going to teleport you back to the younger you, to that young woman who was struggling with a skin condition, lack of self esteem. If you could go back and give yourself three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what will those three nuggets of wisdom be?
Three nuggets of wisdom. So when I was young, just looking back, and it's as if me talking to my younger self, those three nuggets of wisdom would be all of this that you're experiencing right now, all of this pain is going to turn into your purpose. And it's going to teach you a lot of things that are going to help you create joy and happiness. And it's also going to help you help others, which is going to be extremely fulfilling. So that's my first, just going back. I wish someone said that to me, that all of that pain is going to turn into purpose. And I think that about everybody's pain. I feel like pain does equal purpose in some way, shape, or form. And the second nugget of wisdom would be that you're the most important person in your life, and the relationship you have with yourself is the most important one you will ever have. So therefore, if you look at it like that, if you look at it like, oh, I'm the most important person, okay, I have to take care of me up here, in here, physically, just, okay, how do I do that? Right. So just having that simple understanding and knowing that, oh, this is the most important relationship I'll ever have. Oh, didn't know that. That's for sure. I was too busy taking care of everyone else. So that was the second one, I'd say. And the third one is, the more you love yourself, you can love others more. So you have to love yourself in order to love others as much as you want to.
Yes.
And if you're good to
Yes.
you, and if you look for the good in yourself, you're going to
Mhm.
see it out there way more. You're going to see it in life, in the world, in other people. It all starts here. It all starts inside of you.
Yeah.
We definitely, I think, I can speak for myself. I used to base everything off of the circumstances that were going on around me.
Okay.
But I learned, my truth is that what I've learned for myself is that, no, I I can actually shift everything inside of me so that everything on the outside is beautiful and joy is all around me. I just didn't
Mm.
see it all the time because I wasn't looking for it.
There's a Buddhist saying that says, peace begins with me.
Mm,
That really summarizes what you've just said there.
yeah.
Just remembering that it all stems from you.
Yeah.
So let's finish with the last question. And this is now a futuristic question where I teleport you into the future and we're going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. And she's sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her family, her fur babies, whoever's with you at the end. If we could go into the future to meet this wise woman who has led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
I would say, you see, there was absolutely no reason to regret anything you experienced. It all happened for you. It all happened to heal you, to teach you how to heal, to help you heal others. And it was all to teach you how to spread love and to love yourself. All of it. Just be grateful for it.
I
Just be grateful. Just thank your parents, thank your siblings, which I didn't mention. I have two sisters.
love
Just be
it.
grateful.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your wisdom with our community today. It's so, so inspiring when I meet someone who has cracked the code on self love. It's something that a lot of women need. We all need to learn these tools, see how to use them. We've had somebody online on LinkedIn chiming in. Omalara, welcome and thank you for being there listening in. Absolute pleasure to have met you, Kim. You have a powerful message that women need to hear. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like this is my purpose, to spread love, and you're helping me do that, and you're doing that for so many women, for so many women. And I
Thank
just am so grateful for you. And yeah, just thank you so much.
I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And bye for now. Thanks again, Kim.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story. Thank you.